Hi, I'm Billy Keels, the host of the Going Long podcast. Every week, I'm going to be here interviewing the absolute best in the business as it relates to real asset investing, as well as real Main Street investors. We're going to be having conversations where you can listen in, and that's going to help you to continue on your path to education so that you feel much more comfortable as well as confident in investing long distance. So make sure that you go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you're liking it as well, because that way you can get every single episode as soon as it comes out. And by the way, don't forget to leave today's episode a 5-star review. Let's go ahead and listen to today's conversation. Welcome to the Going Long podcast. We're back once again to continue to help to educate you so that you feel comfortable as well as confident investing beyond your backyard. I'm your host, Billy Keels. And you know what? If you've ever wanted to go from being a bilingual database coordinator to a smart asset manager, making an impact on thousands of lives, then this is the conversation that you're going to want to listen to the absolute very last word, I promise. Because today's guest, while living in the United States, was able to use his language skills to actually access and work with foreign markets, which is awesome. He also used specific strategies to get started in real estate. And today his portfolio includes different types of assets such as multifamily, retail, as well as office space. And you know what? He hosts the largest apartment investor meetup in the state of Wisconsin. And he is the co-owner of Smart Asset Capital. I'd like to welcome to the show, Brock Mogensen. Brock, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me, Billy. Looking forward to it.
Oh man, I'm so looking forward to this. And we talked about something that's really cool that I hope comes out during the conversation in our pre-conversation. So, but I'll keep that for a secret until you probably are going to tell us pretty soon. But anyway, listen, Brock, as I mentioned to you before, I like to ask everybody at least 5 of the same questions, and some of them are repeated, but I want to get us started out with the very first question, which is, help us understand, where do you live in the United States?
So I am in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So up in the Midwest region where it gets really cold in the winter and we have good summers.
All right. Perfect. Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Love that. And what is the most positive thing that's happened to you in the last 24 hours, Brock?
It's a good question. I'd say not business related. Last night I went and I was kind of trying to think of new fitness ideas, and I'm going to join a MMA, like jiu-jitsu type gym, just to kind of do something new and get out of my box a little bit.
Wow. That's really, really cool. So then before we get into the next question, why in the world did you pick that, man?
Honestly, I was just at the gym I currently go to talking to someone, and they do it and it's in great shape. I was like, well, it sounds fun. Winter's coming. I mean, might as well pick it up.
There you go. Fantastic. Well, I want to hear how that works out for you. I know that is definitely going to get you in great physical condition. So, and I'm going to guess it's going to have a really positive impact on the mental conditioning as well. So fantastic. Well, listen, Brock, I talked about a couple of things, just a couple of highlights in terms of things that you've done, but would love for you to share with the Going Long audience. What are some of the different decisions you've made, experiences that you've had that have helped you to get to this point in your investing career?
I'd say just the ability to think big. So without going too deep into it right now, I mean, I started with a duplex, and I saw really the power of cash flow and what that could provide. And from there, I kind of quickly realized I didn't really want to deal with being a property manager and having to manage tenants and, the slow scale of buying duplexes and single family. And that's what kind of led me into learning, going after larger deals, partnering with other investors, to tackle these larger deals, ultimately syndication. And that's kind of the path I took from there, just, thinking bigger. And that's led to where I've gotten to now.
Okay. That's fantastic. So there's a lot of things that helps us understand now. One of the really great parts about getting into this real estate investing space is maybe some of the things that have happened even before that. Right. And I know you've had a lot of different life experiences. So maybe you could tell us, before that duplex, kind of what were some of the things that were happening in your life, Brock, that finally led you to even consider real estate as an asset class, if you want to call it that, to invest in? Take us back before that.
Yeah. So ultimately, I think what it was just growing up. So my dad owned 2 duplexes. Actually looking back at it, it's funny. I mean, I grew up house hacking duplexes with my family, right? We lived in one duplex for a few years growing up. And didn't really think anything of it at the time. It was just normal growing up. We lived here for a few years and over here. And then once I got out of college, right, in college, I never really thought I'd be into real estate or have this entrepreneurial mindset. And I got out, and the first thing automatically just clicked in my brain was, I should save up some money and I should just buy a duplex. And that's kind of where that mindset shift happened after that, is where I was able to kind of grow into that. But that was, I think, ultimately what set my mind growing up, and then realizing that after.
Cool. So it sounds like it was almost a subconscious thing, right? Because you were actually living through it. It sounds like your parents were actually doing the house hacking. You were innovators because they were house hacking before you even knew about it, which is the popular terminology today. But so you did mention that. And I'm wondering, when you look at where you are today, and you talked about some of the different things, you purchasing your own properties, you teaming with other people, and now you going out to help educate other people. What impact do you think that had on you, seeing that at such an early age?
It's a good question. I think it might have just kind of taught me to think outside of the box and not really follow the norm that a lot of society follows, where, it might just be you go to college, get a job, invest in your 401k, by the time you're 60, you can retire with, your nice 401k. So I think really it just kind of brought me outside my box to think different compared to a lot of other people, a lot of my friends and family that follow that traditional American lifestyle, where I'm kind of thinking outside the box a little bit more that most people might not follow, but I see it as the right path for myself.
Which I think is great. And, and me still doing the corporate thing, I think sometimes there can be this, oh, wow, you're out of the box. You're so far out of the box. Then, have you had any kind of, because you're someone who's thinking differently than everybody else, and also not just thinking, but doing differently, I guess, what maybe some of the challenges that you have experienced as a result of going against the grain?
I think a lot of people, friends and family, looking at me like I, might be taking too much risk. They see me at my, my corporate jobs, climbing the ladder there, doing well, nice benefits, nice bonuses. And they kind of question, well, why are you taking the risk with the real estate thing? You're growing so well over here. If you continue with that and put money in your 401k, you can have a nice life doing that. But for me, it wasn't enough. I want my time to do what I want and be able to do what anything I want to do. And ultimately for me, that can't be accomplished just through that. I need multiple streams of income to accomplish what I want to do.
Okay. So being really clear on what it is that you want to do. And one of the key words that I just heard you say there was you want to be able to have your time, right? You didn't say you wanted to be able to have X amount of currency, whatever that is, dollars, euros, whatever the case may be. And so having that clear focus, how much do you believe that that's really helping to propel you towards really what it is, the impact that you want to make?
Yeah, I think focus is huge. I think first you have to start with defining like why you want to do it, and setting those goals is crucial. And then just after you have those two set, just going all in on it and staying focused on it. I think a lot of people, you talk to people that might go down that path of setting their why, setting their goals, and they just give up because they don't have the ambition, or they're not sticking with it. So I think you start with that, and then you can't let up. It's going to take a long time to break into it. You just really have to go all in on it.
Yeah. So when you go in on things, and also being able to take time, there's a whole portion of delayed gratification. And nowadays, that's kind of really, really difficult to do. Right. And so you have the focus, you're moving towards your goals, but I want to put it in the context of also what you're doing at Smart Asset Capital. Right. So maybe you could talk a little bit about what is Smart Asset Capital? What is it that you're doing? How are you impacting other lives? And then I've got a couple of really cool questions I want to ask you later.
Yeah. So we're a private equity real estate firm. So essentially what we do is syndication. We go out and partner with, we identify. So I have two partners. Us three make up the GP side of Smart Asset Capital. And we target larger deals.
Sorry, just to stop you there, because as we're getting started, so I know what you're talking about when you say GP, but just to help to educate the audience, when you say GP, what exactly do you mean there?
Yes. So the general partner. So we essentially own the company. We're doing all the work. We're the principals at the company. So we go out as general partners, us three, and we find these deals, we put together, structure the deals, find the debt on the deals. And then we go out and raise a portion of the equity, the cash required to buy these deals from LPs or limited partners. So that's where relationships with investors, we bring them in, real common syndication structures. and target these larger deals. So that's what we've been at it for about 2 years now, and have been able to grow in different asset classes and fairly quickly here in the Milwaukee area.
Fantastic. So you've been able to grow in the Milwaukee area. You've been doing this now for 2 years. I guess everybody has a secret sauce, right? And you're talking about not only putting specific opportunities together, you're also talking about working with other investors. So there's some investor relations aspects there. But how does that then play into, I know one of the things that I talked about in the beginning is you host the largest real estate apartment investor meetup in the state of Wisconsin. So kind of how does that specific meetup play into what you're doing at Smart Asset Capital?
Yeah, so the meetup's been huge for building relationships, finding investors, a whole bunch of different things. And ultimately how we came about doing that is when I think it's a common path that people get started in real estate. You start going to your local meetups and you start networking. So I was doing all that, going to multiple ones each week. And I really found that everyone I was going to was just focused on flipping houses and wholesaling. I didn't go to one, and I was going to all of them, all driving 45 minutes on the weeknights to go to different ones. And they all were focused on that. I didn't find any that talked about multifamily, buy and hold investment. And that's what I was interested in. So after we kind of got the ball rolling on the Smart Asset Capital thing, my partner and I were like, well, no one else is doing it. Let's just try doing it. So we slowly been doing it for probably about a year and a half now. And it's slowly just kept growing. And we just branded ourselves as, specifically multifamily meetup. And that's people like that because the people that are more interested in that have flocked over to our meetup. And just through different methods, we've been able to grow exponentially into, the specific largest multifamily meetup in the state.
Okay. Well, I think that is fantastic to be able so once again, as an entrepreneurial mindset, you couldn't find what you were looking for in the marketplace. So you're solving a problem for yourself. And it sounds like you're also attracting other people that have a very similar issue because they want to learn more about the multifamily aspect in your specific market. So, Brock, when you're looking at that, like I'm someone who works at a multinational, right? I'm doing really well. I've probably talked about some of the things that you talked about, like I've maxed out in my specific plans and things like that. And I want to know a little bit more about multifamily. I live in your area. What are some of the things I'm going to learn when I go check out your meetup that I'm not really learning before? Like, what could I expect once I get there?
Yeah, so I think in common like other meetups, so each month you bring in different speakers, and this is kind of a common way it seems like most of these meetups are run. We might bring an attorney one month or CPA the next month. We just brought someone that talked about cost segregation studies, so we have that, and those are great and all to learn. Obviously, you could type in on YouTube and find the same type of presentation, but ultimately the value comes from the networking. So we bring in these speakers, keep it short, let people ask questions. And then the networking. So anyone that's trying to get into real estate network, your network is your net worth. You really have to build your network, in this, especially, if you can do that in your local area, if that's where you're targeting deals, that helps. So I think ultimately that's what it comes down to. And the greatest value people find out of coming to our meetup and others is building relationships that help them propel their business.
Yeah, I love that. That's a really great bit of value that you're adding there, because pretty much everything you can find online nowadays, but there is something to be said about being able to be in a room together, which I know is a little bit of a challenge for us nowadays, but anyway, it's to be able to be in a similar space. So another thing that a lot of people that are part of our tribe are really interested in is this whole thing of, I work a day job, I'm really busy. At the same time, I feel like there's something more that I could be doing with my capital to help me move closer to living the lifestyle that I want. So maybe having had that kind of experience, what are some of the keys to being able to find that right balance between working a W-2 equivalent type of role and being able to build your own dream at the same time?
Yeah, I think finding it's hard. I think it's hard to find a balance, and I don't know if I've quite found that balance. For me, it really just comes down to you have to put in the time throughout the day. At night after work, you have to kind of get caught up on things. Weekends have been huge, so I think it's hard to find that balance when you're doing both. I think eventually you kind of fall into that schedule, but really just making sure you stay on top of it, because it is a business you're trying to grow, so you have to stay on top of it. Weekends have been huge for me, putting in time on the weekends and building relationships constantly through there. but it does get tough, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is one of the themes that you continue to talk about. It's the delayed gratification. You have to do the work and you have to find the time, right? For you, what works is being able to do it later in the evenings or on the weekends, as you're talking about. But, you're helping other people to say, okay, the important part is to find the time, whatever works for you. I'm someone who wakes up at like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. So that's the time that I have to, that I use, and also with time differences and all that other kind of stuff. So it's great to hear you say that as well, Brock, because you're helping a lot of other people. You also mentioned in this, I've heard you say this a couple of times in our conversation, is really talk about how do you grow and how do you scale. So I guess you are growing your business. Maybe talk to us about some of the things that are helping you to accelerate the growth of your company.
I think something that's been helping a lot is kind of pushing more into the digital marketing space. I can't say I've mastered it yet. There's people out there that are doing really well at it, but we've been able to kind of grow our network more as I've pushed more on, getting myself out there through social media, different email, getting in front of people through email campaigns. The meetup has been big, but I think really it's helped a lot. Finding deals. Like I was on a podcast a few months ago, and 2 weeks after that, a broker calls me, and we end up buying a deal from him. So just stuff like that, I think is huge. Just kind of getting your name out there, networking. That stuff has been huge, and just building relationships. For me, this might be shifting topics slightly, but for me, partnering with the right person was huge. I partnered with someone who had a big presence in the market already. That's what I suggest for a lot of people who are trying to get into it on their own. If you can partner with the right person, whether that even be as passively, if you can partner with the right person that has the same objectives as you, that can be big in the long term.
And so this, being able to make the right impact and grow to the size that you want to, and I think, or at least what I understand, at least you've partnered on over 1,400 doors. So you've found a way, if not more than that, to be able to scale, which is great. But how do you also make that determination? Whether one of the words you said, and I'm going to ask you to help us understand, like being a passive investor versus an active investor. Like how would you help someone determine whether they should do one or the other?
Yeah. So I think, active investor is someone who they want to do it on their own. They're looking, that's they want to do full time. Like they have a goal. I want to be a full-time real estate investor. I want to leave my W-2 job. That's what I want to do. Then active might be the way to go. If you're someone who does well, you're set with your W-2 job, that you're doing very well there. The passive investor is probably the way to go for you if you're already established there. So I think it really just comes down to what do you want to do for the rest of your life as a career, is the way I look at it. And it's really surprising to me a lot of times. You talk to people that have done well, are connected in business, and you start talking about syndication and how they can invest in syndication deals, and they don't know it. And it's like, really, I think it's weird for me just because I've been studying it for a while, but it's surprising that more people don't know about it. They think the only way to invest in real estate is to go buy, the duplex down the street and manage it. And most people don't want to do that because they have busy lives and they don't want to take a call from a tenant at 2 a.m. about a toilet. So it's surprising that this form of investing hasn't gotten out there more, but I think now more and more people are starting to learn about it, which is great.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with you there. So you could either go buy your own property and become a landlord, or you could buy a REIT, which is what a lot of people also thought. And so, but there is definitely a world that is somewhere in between, and something that can give you a lot more control. So, you mentioned something earlier, and I'll probably come back to that. But I know that you happen to like systems and you like data. And this is also one of the areas that's helping you to grow. So maybe talk to us about the role that systems is playing in your business and how that's helping you to be much more effective as well as efficient at Smart Asset Capital.
Yeah, so there's different systems. I'm always looking for ways to systemize stuff, cut time off the schedule, outsource things, stuff like that. So I guess I kind of talk about maybe some of a few of the specific ones we do, and it's helped a lot. So we hired a virtual assistant that's been huge. A specific task is outsourcing lead generation. I think that's a great one for people that are trying to increase leads. A property manager, without going too much into the specifics, a property manager, they'll generate leads for you. But when you're talking about these larger apartment buildings, when you got hundreds of leads coming through a day, you can't expect and this is just an example, you can't expect a leasing manager to answer 100 phone calls a day, or Facebook Marketplace. We generate over 100 leads a day on Facebook Marketplace. You can't answer all those messages. So what we did is create a system around our virtual assistant, runs a Facebook page on Facebook Marketplace. Every lead that comes in, he's required to answer that lead within 5 minutes. And his ultimate goal is to answer any questions and convert that lead into an appointment. So that's just one example of a system. We also have, different weekly reports that come out each day. We have a different report that comes out that tracks collection rates, multiple metrics. But those are just different examples of creating systems. There's a lot of systems you can create around analyzing deals, stuff like that, where you can just automate processes. Because there's a lot of processes in real estate I found that can be automated, that you don't necessarily need to be involved with if you train the right person to do it.
Yeah. And so when you get the right person trained around the specific process, then that definitely can derive value. So maybe because I'm imagining listening to what you're talking about and hear what you're talking about, how these processes can be optimized, et cetera, et cetera. But what does that mean for me as someone who's potentially looking to learn more about what you're doing, Brock? And, I'm looking at different options. It sounds a lot really, really interesting, this whole process optimization, but how does that help me as a potentially someone who wants to enter into your universe?
Yeah, I think you just have to go in. Obviously, when you're first getting started and you have to do most of it on your own. You're not just going to jump right into it and start outsourcing everything, because you have to learn the processes and understand how they work. And then that's when you can start thinking about outsourcing. I still do a lot of the processes that I'm not quite ready to hand off to outsource, just because I want to understand them fully before I hand them off. So I think first, before you start, have it in the back of your mind as you're going into it, how eventually can I build a system around this? But I think a lot of people might outsource things too quickly before actually learning it, and it doesn't get done properly. So I think heading into it, have an idea of how it can be systematized, but make sure you learn it 100% before you start creating a system and outsourcing it.
Okay, perfect. And so that's when you're actually doing doing the process or managing the process yourself. At the same time, someone who's wanting to enter into your world, the fact that you're already thinking about these different processes, that will help them to understand that, look, you do have a very clear process for lead generation. You have a very clear process for engaging with your property manager, which should help them to have, a better peace of mind, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Just knowing that things are getting done properly and everything's being tracked. I'm a big believer in tracking data. If you don't understand how data works and you're not tracking it, it's hard to make decisions. I think almost all decisions should be made around data. And that's kind of how we run our business, is making these decisions based off data metrics.
Could you maybe give us an example of, I know you've at a high level, but maybe give us an example how you use data to get a specific outcome or to make a specific decision?
Yeah, I guess, let's see, an example of one has been going back to the leasing model. So we track every single channel that we have leads coming in through. We track it based on conversion rates. So, how much of a lead is converting to a lease. And we found through tracking it over several months that our best channel by far for generating leads that convert into leases was Facebook Marketplace. So we really doubled down, creating processes specifically with our virtual assistant to go all in on Facebook Marketplace across all of our properties, refreshing leads, doing research into the algorithms of how Facebook Marketplace prioritizes properties on there. And that's been huge, because we've just, like I said, we have hundreds of leads coming through new leads coming through on Facebook Marketplace. And that's not to say each one of those is turning into a lease, but the more leads you have coming in, the more potential you have for leasing units. And, our occupancy is great so far. Even throughout these past few months at all of our properties.
So I love the fact that you are understanding kind of how things are happening, not kind of, but you are understanding how the data, you're taking that data, you're using that data to actually drive and obtain certain types of information. When you're talking about knowing to go all in on Facebook marketing Facebook Marketplace. And so from that, you're also getting the result that you're looking for, which is a higher level of number of leads, and you're putting your own team resources to be able to optimize that. So it's a great example of how you're actually using data to feed this specific process, which goes into the overall system, which you just helped us to understand. So thanks for making that really concrete for us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I said, if we wouldn't have been tracking that, we would have really never know, like, was Facebook Marketplace. Obviously, you kind of have a general idea of it, but we specifically could say, look, it's bringing in X amount of leads in this time period compared to these other channels. Let's double down on this, spend more time there. So, like you said, the data points to that.
Okay. Love that. So what would you say as you're growing, as you're scaling, right? You're always pushing yourself to the limit outside of your comfort zone. What do you feel like right now is kind of like that next big challenge that you need to overcome to get to the next point in your journey at Smart Asset Capital?
I'd say just pushing ourselves to go after the next size of larger deals. I think we've done well growing at, a comfortable pace with deals that are within our comfort zone that we felt, we already have capital committed for these type of deals. So I think our next big goal is to really just push ourselves to go after much larger deals, and whether we have to partner with other people to get those done in certain scenarios. I think that's kind of our next goal, is to really just push ourselves to scale even quicker. Although conservatively, I know right now it's obviously tough times right now finding good deals. Obviously, this market is very competitive. So although we're going to do it conservatively, we want to make sure that we're still pushing ourselves to grow at a comfortable pace.
Fantastic. So pushing yourself to grow at a comfortable pace. And you talked a little bit about going after larger types of units. Help us understand, what do those larger types of units look like? Kind of what does that look like? So you can help us to visualize that.
Yeah, I think really our goal is to continue only doing apartment complexes. So right now our focus is apartment buildings and industrial. Those are the two spaces we've kind of defined going forward. So really, apartment buildings, we'd like to maintain a minimum of 100 units and up, and industrial more so on a purchase price of 5 million and up. So those are kind of general metrics we've defined. We have been a little creative with certain deals when it's tough to say no, and maybe this is something we need to work on. But when a little bit of a smaller deal pops up that looks great, thus far we've been taking those down, and it's helped with our growth. I think it's hard. You just kind of to say no to a good deal. I don't necessarily know if that's the right thing or wrong thing to do. But going forward, I think our goal really is to focus on the larger stuff, because it really is true. People say the smaller deals take just as much. We're going through right now. The smaller deals take just as much time as the larger deals. So I think having more of a focus on what our long-term goal is going to be big in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Keep your eyes on the prize, sort of thing, and it is difficult to walk away from a deal that looks great on paper. Something happened just the other day with me, a great deal, but it was a one property, and I was like, well, yeah, it probably looks great on paper, but just not where I am. So you have to know when to say no and go after those 100+ doors. Are you typically in it sounds like value add? Are you more B class properties, C class properties? Kind of where's your focus area?
So so value add is our goal. We always look for some sort of value add component. There's a whole bunch of different ones, and we look for at least a few of those. Thus far, we've done mostly C, B minus type assets. Going forward, we're focusing more on B. It's not to be said if something came up that's more in that C plus range, we wouldn't do it. But I think B class value add, I know that's really what most investors are looking for, because it's really where historically a lot of the best returns are. But that's kind of our focus going forward, is that B class value add.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So that's where you're going. We're talking a little bit about the future as well. But so if you kind of close your eyes and you said, all right, look, Billy, we're going to, it's like 2 years from now, I'm really, really interested, Brock. How many lives are you impacting? Kind of what does your business look like 24 months from now?
It's a great question. I think my goal is to continue educating people about this space, whether that be to find, people that want to partner with us, or just to give general knowledge to people. I'm really trying to grow more on like social media stuff, to try to show people more about how this real estate stuff works, posting educational content. As far as specifically business related, I would like to be able to, grow this to where we can go into other markets. I know right now we have a property management company here. Our base is built here. We want to continue growing in this market, but then also kind of expand to other markets. And that's definitely a big step, I think, to kind of start looking at several markets instead of just one. But long term, I think that's really where I'm looking to go, is just building our network, building our reach, and expanding into almost a national market strategy.
Awesome. So there's two last questions, right? Because as you start to look at going across different markets nationally, I think that's fantastic. As you know, we love to talk about investing beyond your backyard, helping people to feel much more comfortable and confident about that. And one of the traditional ways to look at it is, I'm just going to invest in my backyard because I can drive down the street and see things, right? I've been doing this for a number of years, and I'm thousands or tens of thousands of kilometers or miles away from the properties, but kind of what is driving your company's desire to look beyond your backyard when you have something obviously that's working really well now?
Yeah, I think just looking at like going back to, very, very data driven. If you look at some of these other markets across the country, obviously there's a lot of the big ones, Atlanta, Texas, Florida, a lot of these high growth markets. That's where long-term there's going to be a lot of returns. That's where jobs are heading. That's where population is heading. And it's really tough to ignore all these trends that are going on that's specifically relate to appreciation that's going to happen in the long term. I think the market we're in here in Milwaukee has decent data metrics. Obviously, our presence, a property management company here has been huge for us to grow here. So I think that plays a piece in it. But like you said, just looking at having that broader view of which markets are the best to invest in is huge. That's kind of where I think we're heading as we want to start looking at some of these larger opportunities. Obviously, there's gonna be a little more competition there, but the long-term appreciation play is gonna be much better there.
Okay. So I love that. And you're really, once again, we're going back to the basics, right? And I love this about you, Brock, because you're really looking at the data. You're allowing the data to help to become the basis, and you're using that data to create the information that you're then using to make the best decisions for yourself, for your investors, for your company, which I think is a great process to have, which takes us all the way back to what we were talking about before, systems. And so as long as you have the system set up, it can be Milwaukee or it can be some other places. So, thank you for helping and clarifying that for us as well. And, there are a number of people that are watching and listening and want to learn more about, but they may not know anything about Milwaukee, right? And because they want to invest beyond their backyard. Can you maybe tell us some of the great things about Milwaukee that are interesting as a place to invest as well?
Yeah, for us, it's been focusing on some of the suburbs of Milwaukee. We've done some stuff in the city of Milwaukee, but there's a lot of pockets we found where the data does look good, where population is heading to, jobs are increasing in specific pockets we kind of focus like within an hour of Milwaukee. So kind of doing the research to figure out, hey, this suburb over here looks great. We like it. It looks like population is growing over here. This company is building this warehouse over here. So tracking that stuff has been big for us. And like I said, having our own in-house property, partnering with the person I did, having his own property management company, that's been huge because we, could take that vertically integrated approach where we don't have to outsource that piece. So all those things have kind of made Wisconsin be a good market for us.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. So that is very, very helpful. And I know we've talked about partnering a number of times, and you've talked about now having that really vertically integrated stack, which is going to give you much more control and also allows you to make some decisions that you're not dependent on third parties to be able to probably move quicker or faster. Would that be accurate?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. All right, cool. So look, Brock, the thing is, I guess I kind of need to stop us a little bit because we're getting to the part of the conversation which is called the going long final three. But the thing is, I never ask you the going long final three unless you tell me that you're ready for me to ask you. So my question is, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, cool. So here we go. So we started over in the United States and you helped us understand you're in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And guess what? As you know, I'm here based in Spain. And so I always like to bring it back this way towards Europe. So can you help us understand? And I think maybe I alluded to this earlier on, but if you could tell us, what is your favorite city in Europe that either you have visited or still on your bucket list to visit?
So it was funny. Like we were talking about this before. So my favorite city is Barcelona, exactly where you're living, Billy. So I did a study abroad there when I was back in college, fell in love with it. I mean, that city is just awesome. So I always tell people that are looking to travel. And when I was there too, I traveled to other European cities and still nothing compared to that city, to Barcelona. So I always tell people to get the chance to visit out there. It's just the culture, everything about it, the food, the people, everything is just awesome. So I'd have to say that's my favorite city.
All right, fantastic. And by the way, if you're not watching us on the video, like you need to jump over and watch the video version of this because Brock and I are both like the smiles are ear to ear,
Yeah.
which is great. So there's another vote for Barcelona, and yes, it's one of the reasons that I don't think I'm going anywhere anytime soon. So look, so we have that a good understanding, a great understanding of what your favorite European city is. And at the same time, you are a successful person, successful entrepreneur. You've had a track record of success. And I always say that usually very successful people have only made one mistake in their entire life. And they've learned, well, okay, maybe not. So you've probably made a number of mistakes or had many learning opportunities. But I guess the one learning opportunity that you had, that lesson that you learned from that, if you could share that with us, would be fantastic.
So I think the biggest one, and this is it's a little bit getting in the weeds, but the biggest one I had was specifically related to real estate, was going into deals. Part of the due diligence, checking specifically with kind of diving into learning more about the demographic of the tenant that lives in the building. So that was something I think we made a little bit of a mistake on one of our early deals, is not going in and specifically talking to the tenants. So now we make it a priority. It's part of our checklist is to specifically go in and talk to these tenants. So we'll go there on a Friday night at 12 o'clock. What does it look like outside the building? Walk around, kind of I go to the property down the street. Hey, what do you think of this one down the street? Not mentioning where to buy it or anything, just kind of mystery shopping, stuff like that. Really to kind of get to know what's going on. I think a lot of times, and I'm guilty of this, I think a lot of people are, is you just look at the numbers, you look at, all right, the population's heading this way. All right, it's a great deal. But a lot of people don't go into specifically and talk to the tenants and ask them, what does it look like here? Is there a lot of noise going on around 2 a.m. on a Saturday? Kind of learning specifically. And that might not change whether you do the deal or not, but it sets you up with a business plan going into the deal saying, okay, we know that there's problems going on here, that, there's crime going on, this is going on. So we need to have a strategy in place right away. I think that's been one of my biggest learning lessons so far.
Okay, so really just going beyond the numbers, getting in contact with the tenants, with the residents before you actually move forward as part of your due diligence. But once again, so that you actually have that input, so you can make the best decision afterwards. So sounds great. Thanks for that.
Yep.
And Brock, last question is really around how we can feed our brain. So help us understand, what book would you recommend to the Going Long audience?
I would say for me, my favorite book that's and helped me really shift my mindset was the 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. I like a lot of his stuff, but I think that was great for especially people that are maybe looking at kind of a mindset shift of thinking bigger. That was big for me. As far as books, a lot of podcasts. I think nowadays you can learn so much just through books, podcasts, YouTube videos. I mean, there's just so much free knowledge out there. Yeah. I think there's value in a lot of a lot of the paid courses as well. But just if you can dive deep into those three sources, you can learn so much nowadays.
Yeah, I think that's great. So we'll add Mr. Grant Cardone's book here and 10X Rule, and then we will make sure that we include those in the show notes as well. So look, Brock, we've had such a great conversation, man, talking from the very beginning when you were learning about real estate investing through your parents, going through the house hacking strategies and learning from that and seeing what you wanted to do. You have the corporate experience and then really focusing on how do you take your own life into your hands and be able to your financial life into your hands and be able to do more, look to how you can grow, look to how you can scale, look to how you can make impact. Talked about how social media is also now one of the areas that you are continuing to explore and expand upon. You're making impact directly in your local market by hosting the largest meetup for the multifamily kind of apartment space, which is another great thing. And also you're focused on data, process, and systems. And you're doing that not only to invest right now in your backyard, but you're looking actively to invest beyond your backyard, which is one of the things that is fantastic. And I'm sure that because of all this greatness that you've shared with us, Brock, that there are so many people that are like, you know what? I got to get in touch with Brock. His story really resonated with me. I got to find out more. What's going on in Milwaukee? Where's his next kind of place he's looking for? I want to get educated in this space. And so do us a favor. Help us understand what is the best way to get in touch with you, your team, so that others can reach out to you.
Yeah, definitely. So on our website, so that'd be at www.smartassetcapital.com. We have some free reports on there, the different trackers we use. I included some articles on there that talk about how we built our meetup, different specific strategies we use that I haven't seen too much out there. Also, I'll give my email address. So my name, Brock at smartassetcapital.com. I can be reached there. Also, on social media, Instagram, I've been posting a lot of educational content there. Just Brock Mogensen is my handle there. So any of those ways, happy to help people out and provide any insight I can.
All right, perfect. Brock, so thanks so much for giving us the opportunity to reach out to you. Like you said, hey, listen, everybody, you need to reach out to him. He made it really, really clear, makes it really, really easy. Brock Mogensen on Instagram. You can go to Brock at smartassetcapital.com, and you can go to smartassetcapital.com and find lots of great resources, free information, and a way to find out more about what Brock and his team are doing. So, wow, Brock, this has been awesome, man. I want to just thank you so much for taking the time, investing the time with me and the entire Going Long audience. So thank you very much for being with us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Billy.
All right. Awesome. So, and for the Going Long audience, I want to thank you once again for investing your time with Brock and I today. And you know what? Brock left so much great information here for you to be able to pick up, to dive into deeper. And, you know, it'd be great if you could share that information with at least 2 or 3 of your friends, right? You're going to make a great impact on them by sharing today's episode. And you know what? One of the other things is Brock and I would love to know what you thought was great about this episode. What do you want to know more about? So feel free to leave us a review that way. And at the same time, if you want to leave 5 stars, well, you know what? We'll accept that too at the end of the day. So, but definitely give us the feedback because we'd appreciate that, so we can continue to bring you quality content. And you know what? I guess we're going to wrap up this conversation. And what I'd like to say is I'm really looking forward to welcoming you back on the very next conversation. Until then, go out and make it a great day. Thank you. Wow. Don't you love hearing from top-notch experts in the field? You know, when I was getting started, I really wish that I would have had access to such experts. And even more, I wish they would have given me like a really simple list of things to follow so that I could have gotten to my goals much faster and been much happier even sooner. So that's why I've created for you the 7 things that you should avoid in order to be successful in long distance investing. And you can pick that up really easily by going to billykeels.com/7 things to avoid. And also, if you liked today's episode, don't forget to leave a 5-star review. I'm looking forward to seeing you on our very next episode, so go out and make it a great day.